Hello, I'm Kaitie Moore Underwood with the Blue Collar Commercial Group. I'm also a board member of the Comal County Conservation Alliance, and I'm here today with Marjesca Brown of the Great Springs Project, which is easily my most favorite conservation project.
It's awesome to hear.
Yes, and she's going to start by telling us just a little bit about it.
The Great Springs Project is a nonprofit organization that is working to facilitate the connection of a 100-plus-mile recreational trail from San Antonio to Austin. And concurrently with that work, we are working to conserve an additional 50,000 acres of land over the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone in that same corridor that we're working. So we are essentially a newer nonprofit organization founded in 2018. We have a staff of about 15 people, and we work between San Antonio, New Braunfels, Wimberley, and Austin. Between our development team, we have a land transactions team and a trail development team.
Wonderful. And so your trail intends to link together 4 counties, which are Travis, Hayes, Comal, and Bear, and 4 springs, which is Barton, San Marcos, Comal, and San Antonio Springs. This is a pretty huge undertaking. What would you say is the biggest hurdle for you guys?
Sure. So the biggest hurdle is exactly the fire under us that drives us to do our work every single day. It's both thrilling and terrifying because it is the rapid population growth of this area. So like you said, our work is in Bear, Comal, Hayes, and Travis counties. And our goal for completion of the project is 2036, which is the Texas bicentennial. The national population growth rate by that time stands at about 11%, but in our 4-county area, it's 4 times that. So that presents some really real challenges for us to get our work done. But how we talk about that internally as an organization is that biggest challenge is also our biggest opportunity to do this work.
That's incredible. Very cool. And so I read that the Great Springs Project launched in 2018. What kind of progress has been made since then, and what would you say has been the most satisfying accomplishment?
Well, for being such a young organization, I would say our biggest progress is really having become that unifying vision and voice for open space preservation through trails, recreational trails, and land conservation. What that looks like is having been successful at creating a coalition of many, many partners. We work with 4 counties. We work with about 9 different city governments. We work with TxDOT. We work with railways, other conservation organizations, land trusts, trail organizations, transportation organizations, private landowners, and developers. So I think what it feels really satisfying about that is knowing that we've gained the trust of so many different kinds of people with so many different kinds of backgrounds in so many different industries.
Wow, yeah, that's just incredible.
So there are about 9 endangered species, specifically cave and springs species that do benefit by abundant clean water. 3 of the most commonly known ones are the Texas blind salamander, the fountain darter, and Texas wild rice. But I'm going to throw like a curveball at you. An endangered species that I have dubbed the Homo sapien texana subspecies hill country eye. That's super corny. It's super corny, I know. But when I think of endangered species, I think of people. When I was young, my mom was a single mother of 2, a young single mother of 2. She didn't have any money, but something that she could afford to do was bring my sister and me to the river. And so she could, relax on her lounge chair, and my sister and I could splash around in the water, and we made those memories, out there on the land in our waters. And those memories, it's one of the things that makes me feel and know that I am a Texan, and not just a Texan, but a hill country Texan. So, I think as those opportunities decline because our rivers or creeks or springs are drying up, I think there's a real risk of sort of losing that pride or sense of place of what really makes us feel like Texas and feel like Texans. Yeah. And, additionally, I talked to a lot of people this summer who were pretty sad about the state of our waters. The river is drying up and you can't go swimming. And, it's a very physical thing that when rivers dry up and you can't go swimming, you lose that opportunity. Well, when swimming is shut down because you don't have enough water, tourism shuts down. And when tourism shuts down, it kills local economies. So that's just sort of, how I think about that and the impact of the loss of some of our groundwaters, how it impacts people. So I kind of think of people when I think of endangered species in our area. So
an incredible and profound connection there.
Yeah. And a little bit corny the way that I explained it, but it works for me.
I love the logical leap. Thank you, Marjesca. Yeah, and something else I read was the 30-mile Violet Crown Trail was going to be included in the Great Springs Trail. Can you tell me what other existing trails would be incorporated? Maybe something with Alligator Creek.
Okay, yes. Let me work from south to north. So how we think about Great Springs Trail is like this central spine that connects into and through current trail projects and then future trail projects. A lot of the work that we're doing is to create that vision and to connect the pieces and fill in the gaps. So we talk about the trail as being A to C, which is the Alamo to the Capitol.
Right on. So beautiful.
So starting in San Antonio, we incorporate the Howard Peak Greenway Trail System, which is a very extensive paved trail network that circles the whole city. Moving up to New Braunfels, we will be incorporating the Alligator Creek trails. And then moving into San Marcos, we get the awesome opportunity to jump into into that natural trail network that's there that is built and maintained by the San Marcos Greenbelt Alliance. So that'll be super fun. And then, like you said, we do incorporate the Violet Crown Trail in Austin. But the cool thing is that for all of those trails that I mentioned that are already on the ground, there's that much, if not double the amount that are being planned right now that might be beginning to be constructed or that are receiving funding to move forward with planning and construction. And that funding piece is a really big part of getting the work done. So to see approval on funding is a really cool thing.
Very cool, and thank you for your involvement there. I really appreciate that because I didn't like how we asked the question anyway. So here we go.
Yeah, if you want to do anything, we can do.
Here we go. So I read that your board president and co-founder Deborah Morin had the idea and vision 25 years ago. What can you tell me about Deborah and her incredible vision?
Well, what I can tell you about Deborah is that she loves Texas and she loves springs and water. And regarding her vision for the Great Springs Project, she really gets the credit for realizing that there was a need for an organization that was very adept at the transactional work for conservation outcomes. So meaning like conservation easements, trail right-of-ways, land acquisition. So our team is really built to be very nimble around being able to bring together the right people with the right funding, with the right piece of land to achieve conservation. And hopefully we do this at a very epic scale because that's our goal.
Excellent. So Ms. Marjesca, in an interview, Gary Merritt said that you work with landowners that understand being part of this project is a legacy for everyone. What else would you like potential participatory landowners to know about involvement in the Great Springs Project?
So one of the biggest misconceptions about participating with the Great Springs Project is that that means that there will be a big trail across your property, and that's far from true. The trail component is just one objective of ours, but the other objective, and just as important, is our work to conserve 50,000 acres of additional land over the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone. So there's two objectives that we have, and a landowner can choose to participate in one of them or both of them. So for the landowners who would like to participate in the trail connectivity piece, they should know that largely in rural areas where the trail would go, if the trail does pass by or along privately owned land, in rural areas that trail is generally just a single track little dirt trail, and it just follows the boundary of the property. So there's no big gaping trail that people might imagine. And we also can work with the landowner to install a fence if they have any concerns about security. Yeah, and we can also work with them to install some vegetative screening if they have any concerns about privacy. So we really want to make it as comfortable for the landowner as possible. So for landowners that do want to participate with us on the land conservation piece, we're actually doing a lot of landowner outreach right now to try to find those folks and to assist them to see if a conservation easement would be of benefit to them and their goals. So a conservation easement is one of the tools that we use for doing land conservation, but another tool that landowners probably don't know about, if there are some folks who have decided that they do want to sell their land, but they still want to see it protected from future development, Great Springs Project can work to identify a conservation buyer, who will agree to purchase the land with a contingency that they then will put a conservation easement over that land once they buy it. So a lot of folks think that they don't have the opportunity to protect their land from development if they sell it, but we can try to come in and help make conservation happen even if they have to sell their property.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible, right? So in an interview with News 4's Jim Lefko, the cost estimate for Great Springs Project was noted to be approximately $1 million per mile. Would you say that figure is still correct?
So trying to determine the cost of the trail is very difficult because the trail cost varies depending on the trail type and the trail location. So for instance, in our corridor, there will be some areas that will be, say, a concrete path that's about 10 feet wide. In other areas, the trail might be decomposed granite at about 8 feet wide, and then in plenty of places there's just a single track dirt trail, it's maybe about 2 feet wide. So we're trying to throw a dart at what that total cost per mile would be is pretty impossible, because it's trying to assume a lot of future details that we just don't even know yet. And the question does get asked a lot. People are really curious. So I do want to direct people to our trails plan, specifically page 76, that does go into a lot more detail on trail cost.
Wonderful. We can find that on your website, I assume.
Yeah.
Excellent. So in an article from the Austin Chronicle, it stated that a conservation easement is where private landowners get tax cuts in return for ceding their right to develop on the land, and that this would be a big ticket to helping get the project going legally. So can you explain in layman's terms how conservation works for a landowner who is interested in participating?
Sure. So I'm going to preface this by first saying that there are many conservation professionals who have been working very hard for the last 30 or 40 years to nurture and develop conservation in our region. I want to humbly acknowledge those people and their expertise and all of the work that they have done. I'm a relatively new face in the conservation world in this area. But luckily, or fortunately, I get to be at the Great Springs Project and work under Scott Parker, who is our land transactions director. And Scott Parker is a legend in land conservation for his skill in being able to navigate very complicated, sophisticated transactions. And I think he's also a legend because he has so much sensitivity and patience with landowners. So conservation easements are very complicated. So I will try to explain it in the most simple layman's terms. People have different goals, and one landowner's goal might be to develop their land. Another landowner's goal might be to protect their land from development forever. So a conservation easement is for that landowner who wants to protect their land from development forever, and it essentially helps them formalize that intent in a legal agreement. A conservation easement is a legal agreement where the landowner maintains ownership of their land. They maintain most of the current uses of their land, but they sell or donate the rights to develop that land. So when you remove the rights to develop land, you decrease the value of that land. That decrease in value is what a landowner can donate and use as a deduction on their federal income taxes. So a conservation easement can help you on your federal income taxes. The conservation easement travels with the land in perpetuity. So if a landowner passes away, God forbid, and the heirs inherit the land, at that time the value of the land is reassessed at the highest and best use, which is usually development. But since that land has a conservation easement on it, which is prohibiting any development, that conservation easement helps keep the value of that land from increasing at an exorbitant amount. And this creates opportunities for estate tax relief for the heirs.
Wonderful.
So that's it in a nutshell, in the most simple ways, and I can explain it. What I haven't mentioned is that conservation easements are all very unique, and they're very much tailored to what that landowner's visions and goals are for their land. Also, a landowner can withhold a building envelope in that easement. So oftentimes they might be concerned that they won't be able to build a house in the future, but by withholding that, what we call a building envelope in that easement, the landowner can still build a house or even houses in the future. So say they wanted to build a house or their children wanted to build a house, they could still do that. So if a landowner was interested in learning more, talking more about conservation easements, there's about 9 or 10 conservation organizations in our area that do work with conservation easements. Wow. And they each really sort of specialize in their own thing. So I would recommend, just like someone shops around for a realtor, shops around for a broker to list their land or a property, I would really suggest for a landowner to reach out and sort of shop around to the different conservation organizations that do conservation easements and really see what the best fit is for them. We have, as sort of an industry in this area, we've really begun to work collaboratively, understanding that when we work as a team, these conservation organizations, we give more benefit to the landowner because we are trying to put the landowner with the right organization. The landowner's interests are always first. You know, they know their property the best and what they want, and conservation comes second to what the landowner wants.
Yeah. Marjesca, I really just want to thank you so much for your time today, and just a sincere thanks for what you and Great Springs Project does for the Hill Country. If you are a landowner interested in protecting your land from development, I would ask you to please reach out to Marjesca. She would more than happy to direct you in the right direction. We would love to answer any further questions too that you have about this interview today. Thank you so much.
Yeah.